My Ahmed Fati is our guest this morning on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. I will be looking at some of your contributions to the conversation as soon as I probably, pop the next question, which will take me, to the international stage. We are OIC chair. President Barrow is the current chair of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. In view of what is happening in the Middle East, the Israeli war on Palestine, Gaza, to be precise, should we be doing more?
Certainly, the Gambia has the possibility to do more. Gambian diplomacy has moved to a stage where we have, particularly when it comes to OIC issues, become a nation to be consulted. And when diplomatically you have become a nation and reach a stage where other nations will consult you, you can say that you have sovereign clout. On all issues pertaining to Palestine and affecting organization of the Islamic cooperation, the Gambia today must be consulted by all other member states, from the executive secretariat to individual member countries of the cooperation. So we have a great influence and great clout that I believe we are underutilizing. I think we should be on the vanguard. We should take a more proactive diplomacy towards this. We should be speaking and we should be acting in places and venues in order to propagate our national ability to resolve international disputes or contribute constructively and put it on international record. Our diplomacy is active, but can be more active than it is. We have taken measures, but I think the measures are way inadequate compared to our abilities to impact change, particularly with regards to the Palestinian situation. I think the Gambia should be the center of all of these meetings and discussions. Our shuttle diplomacy should be everywhere, from the United States to Geneva, to Moscow, all the way down to Havana, everywhere. The Gambia should be crisscrossing. And we can do this because we have the financial clout of the Islamic cooperation in Jeddah. So we will be able to have the funds, to substitute our deficiency where the need to conduct the diplomacy is required. And, we have people like, for example, say, Mori Keba Jane, a former UN executive. We, at the time, also had Sidat Job, who was alive, an experienced diplomat. We have other Gambian diplomats who may not be serving, but who have enormous experience in this area that can support the president and the ministry, including even at our university, the support to act as, as a buffer in enabling the Gambia propagate these issues. The institutional framework is there. We have not, the international framework exists. We have not taken much advantage of it, and we should. So the Gambian voice is echoing, but not as further as it should. The Gambian influence opportunity is there for us to be a small country, but we are today the chairperson. So the president, our foreign minister, will chair all those meetings. What should happen is this country should be summoning states. This country should be appearing before the United Nations today. General Assembly, before a special request before the Security Council as well, in order to advocate for Palestine and propagate peace, not only in Palestine, but even Iran, between Iran and Israel. Iran is a member of the OIC. The Gambia has diplomatic relations with Israel. So we have access to both. We have diplomatic relations with both countries. It means we can get up and go to Tel Aviv and speak to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We can go also and go to Tehran and speak to the Ayatollah and his people. We can go to Jeddah and summon a meeting there. We can facilitate a lot of rapprochement. And we can do this using our diplomatic clout. But we must exploit it. We have strength. We must recognize this strength and exploit this strength. We have this strength. Perhaps we do not appreciate how formidable that strength can be deployed for the global good.
To exploit that strength, do you think the recent change in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is an opportunity, Sirij Mudu coming in for Dr. Tangara?
I think it's a huge opportunity, a great opportunity. Every time when you have a new situation like this.
By the way, as we speak, he's in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, I understand that. I understand that. Every time you have a situation like this, a new person coming in, I think it brings in something new, a new perspective, a new dynamism, a new trajectory. And you know, I have a lot of respect for the diplomats at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Permanent Secretary is a consummate diplomat, and he's supported by a very good team. But they are highly, they demand power. You know, they have insufficient numbers there. When you look at a particular directorate of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, there are only 3 to 4 people there.
Really?
And it's called an entire directorate of something. Yeah. When you go to that directorate, there is a dearth of human capacity. And then you look at other directors as fit. So we need to attract competent staff, people of integrity, people who have high knowledge, and people who can sell foreign policy as a commodity. Because the essence of foreign policy simply is the propagation of domestic policy abroad. That is what foreign policy is also about. You propagate your domestic policy abroad. That is what foreign service is all about. So our foreign service should be the number one marketers, salesmen and women of the Gambia. And so we need to equip it. It is part of our economic asset. It is part of our national strategic asset. So we should empower them, we should arm them, and we should heavily finance them. And the president is the chief salesman of the country. He's the chief marketer of the Gambia. So as head of state, I believe that we should have greater emphasis on our foreign service and equip it with people who know their left from their right, people who know what it means to conduct diplomacy, people who understand nuances, who knows what influence is about, people who can really make things happen and bring that dividend back home. That is what the foreign service should be about.
And when people say of the foreign service that the president, who's supposed to be the chief marketer and all of that, has used it as a dumping ground for failed politicians and civil servants, you know, what's your reaction to that kind of statement?
Well, people have a right to express their opinion. You know, if you say failed politicians, the word fail is relative. One man's failure is another man's success. So who determines what a failed politician is? I mean, who has a right to describe somebody a failed politician? You know, so those are people's opinion. I will not go too much into detail on that, but I know that it is the president's prerogative to crowd our diplomatic service. The law gives him the ability to do so and the power to do so. Just like he has a right to appoint a minister.
Yeah, but what about the characterization of the foreign service as a dumping ground?
I'd say it is their opinion, and they're entitled to their opinion.
Okay.
I respect their opinion,
okay,
but their opinion doesn't make it factual.
All right, speaking of opinion, let me take, because we have to be out definitely by 10:30, let me take a few messages that have come in. The Constitution sets the term of office for president to be 5 years. For any president to agree to serve less than 5 years in office is not a violation of the Constitution. The Constitution itself allows resignation as well as removal by impeachment or death as ground for a vacancy in that office. So for the coalition to agree to a 3-year transition did not violate the Constitution in any way. Mai was there in 2016 and never objected to the MOU. So it's disingenuous to come here today to hide behind Usainu Dabo or anyone to attempt to justify Barrow's betrayal of the 3-year agenda. I almost said Jotna. That's from Madi Jobate.
Okay, let me respond to my good brother Madi Jobate. First and foremost, I'm not hiding behind Honorable Usainu Dabo, and it is not disingenuous of me to say that the 5-year constitution is agreed. And certainly I agree with Madi Jobate when he said, yes, the constitution provides for impeachment, it provides for resignation and all that. I agree with him on all of those things. What I had indicated when you had responded, when you had asked the question, and the records will prove me right, perhaps Madi was not listening to me carefully, or he was in a rush, or as usual, in his Madism, he imposes, well, he comes out with the supremacy of his views as the law. But this time Madi got me wrong. Let me restate what I had said earlier on when you started, when you asked the question. I said, I started by saying, President Barrow is not alone in that company. And I cited that I was there when Honorable Usainu Dabo, the former vice president, raised this issue. I admitted I was there. And I indicated that he raised the issue of the constitutionality of the 3-year, which Barrow also agreed. I never said it's unconstitutional. I never said so. I said forcing President Barrow, to force him, like Honorable Usainu Dabo had indicated, forcing President Barrow to come down at 3 years is unconstitutional. And Madi Jabate will not be able to say that is constitutional. That is my position. So when I made a reference to my mentor, Honorable Usainu Dabo, I indicated Honorable Usainu Dabo, he simply said to bring President Barrow down at all costs at 3 years is unconstitutional. He will not stand for it. And President Barrow is right. If he does not want to come down at 3 years, he has a constitutional right to continue his mandate. And I support the position of Honorable Usainu Dabo that yes, Barrow cannot be forced to come down. So there's nothing disingenuous with what I said. And I'm not hiding behind anybody's statement. I'm hiding behind the Constitution that says Barrow cannot be forced to come down. Then further on, I went ahead to say, if President Barrow decides to proceed beyond 3 years, that is a judgment on him. It is an issue of morality. That was what I had stated. So I am asking Madi Jobate to play this tape back and listen to my response and then apologize to me for mischaracterizing my answer.
Oh,
thank you.
Good morning, Uncle Peter. Can you please ask Mr. Fati to please advise President Barrow to be careful with the police and judiciary against arresting and jailing innocent youths, because the same institutions can turn against him and his team after the presidency? Are you still advisor to the president?
Well, my opportunity or avenue to advise the president is one every citizen has. Every citizen has a duty to advise the president. So whereas I appreciate this questionnaire, I would also recommend to him to equally communicate this, particularly through the media, and advise the president of his perspective. I may not share his perspective. I believe that the police must be empowered, that we have to have law and order, that citizens cannot act anyhow they want against the law, and that the police should enforce according to law and not against the law. I would not support the Gambian police force or any law enforcement agencies to violate law against civilians. But I will support the police in any law enforcement activity consistent with the law. And that's what I would encourage President Barrow to do.
Good morning, Uncle Peter. Kindly ask your guest, Mr. Fati, to tell Gambians why he was relieved of his cabinet portfolio, because many believe it was due to corrupt practices. Please, can he clear the doubts?
I have spoken about this repeatedly. If anybody believes that I was relieved of my position as Interior Minister, and you have evidence of corruption against me, please come forward with your allegation and submit it to the government, and let me be prosecuted. Now, anybody can say any allegation against anybody and say he was relieved because of corruption. That is not sufficient. It's a shame for a Gambian to stand and accuse another Gambian of corruption without evidence. I think it is wrong. It is immoral and defamatory. So the person who is asking that question, if he believes that I was relieved as Interior Minister because of corrupt practice, he should come out and substantiate that and give it to the government. But up to date, since 2017 to date, I have challenged the whole world to come out with evidence so that I can be prosecuted for corruption. No one has come forward. So if you do not have the evidence, for God's sake, can you shut up if you don't have the evidence? And do not try to defame me by hiding behind people say. What do you say? People say, people must prove. So, Peter, all I would say to that is the president has the power to change people. He changed me. That is constitutional right. The president has also relieved other people of their positions. Were they also corrupt? Why must he keep saying my party alone? I have been relieved because I was, that is the perception. What about other ministers? So many ministers. Parliament Tambajang was here. He was relieved. He was vice president, higher than mine. We have others. My good friend, Amadou Sane, was finance minister. The late Lamin Damung Diba was minister. The late, the former vice president, Osunu Dabo, was relieved as vice president, and many, many more. Why must it be my father was relieved, so he has to be corrupt? What about the rest? I think it's unfair. I think it's unjust. I think it's vindictive. I think it's selective, and I will not stand for it. If you do not have the evidence to bring forward, everything you say would be a lie, and people will see it as a lie.
Good morning, Peter. Honorable is correct that many are not abreast with the Constitution, hence the need to teach the Constitution in all upper basic schools. But why would the 2020 version not have been allowed to go through to committee level? I think two things here. The teaching of the Constitution,
Yes.
high schools, or what is it, upper basic school now, or senior secondary schools? And, you made the point that the 2024 should have been allowed to get to committee level,
Yes.
whereas you didn't make the same argument for the 2020 version.
Well, certainly, yes. Maybe that was an omission on my part, but the same principle applies. I want to assure that the 2020 also should have gone to committee stage. I mean, I maintain that argument should be the same. So the argument I made in respect of the 24 applies to the 2020. It was perhaps an omission on my part, but consistency in all of them. They should have gone to committee stage, and they should have been allowed to go to a plebiscite, a referendum. So, but in terms of the Constitution, yes, I agree. The Ministry of Basic Education should look into it. Ministry of Higher Education should look into it. We should be teaching our Constitution from primary one.
Okay.
We should be civics is taught because we did that at high school.
Are they still teaching civics?
I wonder where they still do, because we studied that civics at high school. Yes. So we understand who the ministers were, we understand rights and all these things, government, the arms of government, their responsibilities, their jobs. So I'm not sure whether civics is still being taught, because it looks like it's not being taught. Because if you look at public attitude outside, even if it is being taught, it's not being understood.
Very good. Hi, Uncle Peter. Can your guest tell us if he has ever seen the signed 3-year agreement? If no, why did he use an unsigned agreement as a campaign promise? This coalition, agreement, was it signed? Yes. Who can display a signed copy of the agreement?
Well, let me be very clear about an agreement. I am not even going into whether it is signed or not signed. What I'm going to go into, nobody has doubted that there was an agreement, because what he's saying is that have you seen it signed?
Yes.
So he's admitting that in fact there was an agreement, but whether there's a signed version or not, that is the question. For me, what is relevant is the substantive matter itself, the fact of the agreement. Now, these are political leaders, each of them a presidential material, who came forward and agree on principles, political principles. And those principles are known to everybody. Now, once an agreement is reached, it is an agreement. But the defining characteristics of an agreement is its enforceability. An agreement is a meeting of the minds. But one salient element in an agreement, in basic contract law, is the intention to be legally binding. And if it is legally binding, then it means if there is a violation, you can go to court and seek redress. Now, was that agreement enforceable? Can anybody go to court and say you want to enforce the 3-year agreement, even if it is written? Suddenly, it is not enforceable in any court of law, because it will be contrary to public policy and against the Constitution. You cannot enforce it. The circumstances where the president can be removed from office are not voluntary. You have to invoke a process into effect. And those processes will determine the conclusion of whether the president will be removed or not. It's a constitutional process. But the very fact that the president refused to come down at the end of 3 years because he agreed that he was going to step down at 3 years, and his failure to do so, you can go to court to enforce it, is impossible, legally impossible, constitutionally impossible. So that agreement could not have been legally enforced. If that is the case, can you strictly speaking call it an agreement? Because the law has defined what an agreement is. One of the indispensable elements in an agreement is the intention for that agreement to be legally binding. That agreement is not legally binding. So it's simply elevated to a higher status of a memorandum of understanding. That would be a higher status, but it is not a legally enforceable agreement. Nobody will tell you that they can go to court and get it legally enforced.
Hello, Peter. Good morning. I want Mr. Fati to know that there is nobody who thinks that President Barrow is not legally qualified to stand for a third term or a fourth term or even fifth term under the current constitution. What most people are saying is that going by the spirit of 2016, the overwhelming desire of most Gambians is no president should serve for more than 10 years. So most people are calling on the president to set the moral standard. Indeed, he himself, Barrow, said he has no intention of staying too long in power, so we want him to set the precedent, even though he has no legal obligation to do so. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. I agree with you.
You agree with the texter?
I agree with the person who sent the text that his argument or his point is valid, is very legitimate. He shares my view. We share the same view. But that is a subjective matter for the president to consider. It's for the president to say, well, I want or not. But I do not agree in one sense in that it is not to say that term limit is universal. Term limit is not universal. Some of the most developed countries in the world, some of the most advanced democratic countries in the world, like the Scandinavian countries, for example, like Germany, even France, these are developed democracies that we all seek to emulate. In those countries, they do not have specific term limits. They can come back and come back and come back. Now we are looking at Germany today. We are looking at Russia. Some would not call it a democratic country, but Russia considers itself a democratic country. We look at China. China it's not a one-party state. You'll be surprised that the government in China is a coalition government. There are 7 other political parties in China. And China is a multi-party democracy. You know, they come in repeatedly unstopped. In fact, recently, they have eliminated anything to do with controlling the tenure of a president. So worldwide, there are nations that believe in 2 terms. There are nations that do not. And so each country with your own characteristics. I think Gambian democracy should not seek to copy other democracies. Gambian democracy should look at what is best under our subjective local circumstances, and we build our own democracy based on Gambian values, based on Gambian history, based on Gambian circumstances, rather than trying to be a copycat. What is happening in England may not happen because our societies are totally different. What prevails in America, which is a federation, is totally different from America. We, from the Gambia, our educational and social and cultural circumstances and conventions are totally different. Our ethnic compositions are totally different. So it will be improper for us to measure Gambian standards and Gambian circumstances against other countries when, in fact, there is no comparison in terms of the main indices. So I believe in homegrown democracy that is consistent, with Gambian realities. And that's why the Arab countries that have monarchies, like United Arab Emirates, is one of the most developed countries in the world today. Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, he didn't have any term limits. So the progress, the prosperity, the development trajectory of a country is not determined by term limits. It is determined by leadership and the willingness of the people to go into the trenches, dirty their hands and lift themselves out of poverty. That is what determines national development. It is not how many times you limit the term of a president. If it were term limits, Senegal would have been a different country today. Other countries as well. But look at Saudi Arabia, look at Qatar. There's no time limit in Qatar. Look at Germany. It is the most advanced industrial nation in Europe. There's no time limit. So look at Scandinavia. They have the highest quality of life. They can seek election over and over. So, and these are facts. India, the most populous nation on earth today, is a nuclear power. In terms of pharmaceuticals and others, India is moving forward. India has no term limits. So let us focus on building good leaders and building good citizens. It is what counts, what matters. Let us stop bogging down on small trivial issues like term limits. Let's focus on how do we develop our country and lift our people out of poverty. Any system that will achieve that, we should focus on that system and not be too obsessed with how long you have been in power, but how much can you contribute towards changing the lot of your people. Peter, that is the significant element.
Fantastic. And finally, my Ahmed Fati, leader of the Gambia Moral Congress. of all the challenges that the Gambia faces, whether it's corruption, whether it's a weak healthcare system, whether it's tribalism, whatever it is, what would you say is the biggest? Because people say we face so many challenges, but which of these so many challenges would you say is the biggest that we need to confront head on, collectively as a nation?
The biggest problem we confront is none of those. It is indiscipline. Indiscipline is the biggest problem we confront in this country, and lack of patriotism. Most Gambians don't love their country. Most Gambians do not love their own country. Most Gambians are not disciplined enough to do what it takes to develop themselves, develop their communities, and develop their society and country. It is the greatest dilemma we are facing today. It's the greatest threat to our survival as a nation. A nation without disciplined citizenry would never achieve anything consistent. And that is why I went to China barely a month ago. And I spent a good time understanding the Chinese system. China was able to lift almost 1 billion people out of poverty through discipline. The people were determined to change themselves, to change their country, not just leadership. Because leadership cannot change people. The people must be willing to change. They must commit themselves to changing their circumstances. You see, one example of that, when some Gambians leave this country, I did it. They go and clean toilets, they clean streets, they bust tables, they bust plates. They do it for long hours. They're willing to do that. People go to Spain, Gambians, they go to Italy, they work on the farms, they pick apples, grapes. They work long hours. They're able to do this. Gambian people go to Europe and they are working in hospital as nurses. They go to work on time. They clock on time and clock out on time. Here, people go to work late. People get off work before time. People don't perform their obligations at work. People demand for the smallest of service some money. This is not government. This is we Gambians. We are not willing to do what it takes to do our job. If you are a watchman, make sure nobody exits through that door or passes through the door unauthorized. If you are working as a clerk, as a secretary, focus on your files. Be proud of it. If you are a permanent secretary, focus on developing the policy and getting it done on time and be indiscriminate as to who you serve. If you are a minister, you must target to change the sector to serve the people. That is the mindset we need. But if you import goods, you want to corrupt a GRA officer, so you pay less. Peter, is that not the Gambian doing that? You are a teacher. Instead of focusing on teaching, you are looking at the beautiful little girls in front of you, whom you can abuse. Teacher, you are a banker. You are a teller at the bank. Instead of giving people $10,000, you steal 100, 200 from each of the packets. You put it in your pocket. And many more and many more. You have a specific task to perform. Instead of performing that task, you spend the whole half of the day on your breakfast. Lunchtime comes. People, you are not sitting at your desk. Customer service, you find them on their phones, on Facebook. When you tell them, money, so it's the indiscipline. We must be conscious, we must love our country, we must be proud of what we do. We have great Gambians international. My good friend, Esa Fall, who's been a schoolmate of mine, and we're still friends. He's a great intellectual, he's a great professional. We have many more in the international communities, Gambians who are serving. But bring them back home. They're affected by the home syndrome. They start getting lazy. Unproductivity comes. Peter, corruption in this country is so endemic that fighting corruption itself becomes risky. It becomes risky for your own life. Because we have become so immune to corrupt practice and to corruption that we talk about it, but nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about it. Most people talking about corruption don't give a damn about it. Excuse my language. Why? Because we are all practicing it. Go ahead and drive. Go to the street and see how many people are giving money, tucking money into police's hands. Traffic police. I mean, it's all over. Yeah. Peter, your child has failed school. You go there and you want to bribe the headmaster or the principal to take your child. You are bringing down standards. That is what is happening everywhere. So we must be disciplined and we must respect the law. We must love our country. That is what is lacking. If we are able to do these three things, I can tell you Gambia will be heaven.
Well, unfortunately, I have been very indisciplined today because I have allowed my party to go until 10:34. We should have stopped at 10 o'clock.
I've waited 1 hour.
Mike, thanks very much for coming.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much. Very proud of you.
And I hope it won't take another half a year to get you back here.
I can assure you when I'm needed, and that is time I'll be here.
All right.
But I want to tell the public that gis ngeen may fàtte mi toog fi ak ñeneen ñi. Uncle Peter mi fi toog ñoo ñu yar. Waaw. Soo gisee media ñoom Uncle Peter la ñoo ñu yar du tey de. Since 80s laa nekk di wax nii.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you very much for contributing to the little that I am.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suede.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ano lay wax?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Yes!
Wave Accina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.